Perfect. Well, as people are joining, I'll jump into my introduction. So welcome everybody to the Community Brew webinar. My name's Marty from Birchal. And tonight we're super excited to have you here to chat with Mason Bagios, co-founder and CEO of Community Brew, to answer any questions that you have about their upcoming Birchal investment offer. As I mentioned, I'm from Birchal, so we're the intermediate platform that's hosting this offer. Basically, how that works is we're the ones making sure that we can collect the money, pass it on to Community Brew so that when they're ready to issue your shares, that's all done smoothly. I'll get into a bit more about our role later on, but just a bit of a high level about what we're going to be doing tonight. So obviously, this is a forum for you to connect with Mason, ask any questions that you have about the investment offer, and hear a little bit more about the Community Brew story. So that's what we're going to get to first. Mason's got a bit of a slide deck, a bit of a presentation to run through, which will go for about 20 minutes at the start. And as we're here for questions, I really encourage you, if you have a question, don't wait until the end. Just feel free to pop that in the bottom there. You'll see there's a Q&A button down the bottom of your screen. Pop that in anytime you have a question and we'll get to them in the end. After Mason finishes, we've actually got a few questions that have come through via email from people who apologies and couldn't make it tonight. So we'll get to them very quickly and then we'll jump into an audience Q&A for basically as long as we need to get through the questions that you have. So yeah, all up, I think we'll run for between 35 to 45 minutes and see how we go. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate you taking some of your evening to devote to this. We've had a lot of interest in the Community Brew offer, so we're super excited to crack on with it. What I'll do now is I'll pass over to Mason. He's going to go through his presentation. Mason, if you want to give a quick introduction about yourself and then maybe start sharing your screen, then we can just go from there.
Great, I'll start the screen share now. Welcome everybody. Thank you there, Marty. Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Mason. I'm one of the founders of Community Brew. I started my partnership with my closest friend Jared over 11 years ago. We worked as colleagues and then we became best friends and we became housemates, and then I tapped him on the shoulder and became business partners. It's been a long journey, but it's been a hobby business for several years, and I'll go through that whole story tonight. But before I go too deep, I actually just wanted to make sure we do a welcome to country, and we actually acknowledge the elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge that this broadcast is happening on Whadjuk Noongar country, and that we make sure that we pay respect to the culture that has been here and never gave up their lands, and that we recognise that before we start the conduct today. Okay, so it's really my delight to present to you Community Brew. We are doing this virtual crowdfunder, and I get to express with you the journey that we've been on and where we're heading next. So for those who haven't met Community Brew before and know what we're about, we simply design and produce drinks for modern health-conscious people. These are people who are aligned with the moderation movement, who care what is in their food and want both flavour and function in their diet. We started our business with a very clear mission, and it's been true for over 10 years as best friends, and as the way that we work together. It's been the bedrock of our business, and it's to have a mission to change Australia's drinking culture, and we do this by making one healthy beverage at a time. So many of you would have already met Jared and myself, and for anyone that's new to our customer journey and new to our business, we met each other in 2012. We worked together for about 4 years in an organic grocery store. Eventually, I tapped him on the shoulder and I said, mate, you and I haven't drunk for several years. We go to barbecues. We often feel awkward. We're getting offered pub squash and water. What do? We were only about 23 at the time. And so we decided to build an 18 square metre brewery out the back of his house. You can see us there. We were putting the insulation in, the gyprock. We did all the plumbing. And really simply, we went to farmers markets and started selling our kombucha at that time and drinks just at farmers markets, events and the like. For about 5 years, we actually traded about 400,000 a year. So it was quite a big hobby business. We were working every weekend. We were working morning and night. And in 2020, we decided we actually should commercialize. We were going to give up our full-time jobs. We were going to fully commit. And we wanted to actually give our business an opportunity to get beyond the cottage. We knew we were ready to scale up. and we need to redefine what our business was. And we've done so in the following sort of mission statement or like business statement. Kommunity Brew is ultimately a brand-led manufacturing company, and we specialize in functional, zero alcohol and low or zero sugar premium beverages. So from the cottage to the factory, we worked out we needed to be specific, and we also needed to work out what sort of benchmarks to measure our business on. And in those 5 years, we'd actually serviced over 700 customers. We'd sold 1.6 million bottles, and now it's about 2 million. We'd traded over 4.5 million in revenue, and we're on our way to reaching a carbon neutral target as well. Business to date, we've done over 15,000 orders. And so you can see that at the start of that commercialization journey, we really already had a formidable business that we could grow upon. And it was about committing to that journey and seeing where we could take it to next. And we were really spurred by what we were seeing when we spoke to our customers, and we spoke to retailers and every touch point in our business. Australians are seeking healthier options to fit in with their lifestyle. There's been recent research to suggest that 80% of families consider their health as a top priority, and that 60% of those people are trying to reduce unhealthy foods. And this is like soft drink and fast food, high sugar, high calorie foods. And then we have another overwhelming trend, which is that consumers are moving towards no or low alcohol consumption. And that's recent, that's 2023. And this sort of research is indicating that that family dinner table, that picnic, that Easter weekend is full of Australians and just common people who are trying to find healthy drinks. And here we were positioned as a cottage business that really needed to grow, that had this massive demand that we couldn't meet. And so we decided to understand a bit better about who we're trying to satisfy in the market. When we look at 80% of Australians, let's get to know them a little bit better, and let's get to know their occasions. So we like to study people, and we worked out that young adults are looking to be athletes, they're looking to be active, they're wanting to live that great Australian lifestyle and reach their potential. They play sport, they play professional sport, they cycle to work, but at the same time, they go to work and they want to perform, and they want mental acuity. So it's this balance between being both book smart or brain smart, as well as body smart and health smart. And then we also now have this emerging need of people to recover. And I think this feeds into the whole sobriety, moderation, and non-alcohol movement, which is that people don't want to have the brutal hangovers they used to have. And they're conscious about how their body is going to feel the next day. And that's both young and across the age spectrum. So commercializing our business became a studious approach. We decided to do the research, find out what trends were pushing our business and why we reached that $500,000 turnover so quickly when we were just doing something out of a shed. We need to develop our products to meet this demand, and then it had to pass a barbecue test. So when we go to test a product, we're doing a kombucha flavor or working on an iced tea, we need to put it into an occasion. We need to take it to the place where it's being consumed. And there's no better test than the family barbecue, where people are going to ask you, what is that kombucha stuff? What are you drinking? What's in your hand? And whether or not the people that are drinking it and enjoying it feel at home, feel natural, and don't feel like they're the odd one out. From that learning, we then have an iterative process of going, okay, how has our product gone to the market? How has it been consumed at these occasions? And then we launch in a big way. And it really is a big way. We got to understand, where is our products and where is our business moving towards? And what we've realized over time is that there is this huge market that's waiting for products such as ours. In fact, Australia's functional beverage market is about 10% on a capita basis to the USA, which is to say that Australians are still big alcoholic drinkers, even though they are moving towards being healthy. We have a long way to go in Australia to progress our food chain, the things that we put in our mouths, and the drinks we have on weekends. And the US market, which is very developed, is over 10 times the size of ours on a per capita basis. And the places and the channels that our products feature in. So you can say that kombucha features in, say, carbonated soft drink. You know, it's often taking a position against Coca-Cola and against Pepsi. You could say our cold brew coffee is taking on Masters and Browns and those RTD coffee drinks. And our iced tea products are taking on the Lipton and the Fuse and the Arizona teas of the world. And these are really big product categories. And we didn't understand quite how big they were until we looked at the research. And it became very clear to us what the opportunity is in our business. These food systems need to drop the sugar and they need to drop the artificial ingredients in order to align with the Australian consumer and shopper. So we decided to make a secret recipe around our brands, around all of our products. And number one, it's sugar avoidance. Whether you're an athlete or someone that's just trying to lose weight or just trying to balance their meal so that they can have their buttermilk chicken burger, but then have a bit of a guilt-free indulgence in their drinks, people are avoiding sugar. And there's just far too much in our food chain. Similarly, there is still plenty of artificial ingredients and there are plenty of artificial ingredient-laden products entering the market every single day. But we know that the trend is moving towards natural. And we also have to recognize that allergens are both serious for some, but chronic for others, in that some people need to absolutely avoid allergens, but many, many people seek to avoid things just because they feel better. And no better allergen is the case such as gluten. So this is where the non-alcoholic beer market still has a problem in that it still supplies a gluten product to many people who are just trying to avoid it. We then need to have 3 qualities to all of our products that satisfy that consumer. So it's not just about what we don't put in, it's about what we do put in. And in all of our products, whether it be Kommunity Brew or our affiliated brands, you're going to find drinks that are pure, natural ingredients that are simple to understand so that anyone in that household can look at the label and know what's in their food. Then it's got to be flavorful. There's no point taking a drink to a barbecue or an Easter weekend and it doesn't taste good. Nothing healthy for you is going to stick unless it's actually delicious and makes you want to come back. And then functional. More and more, we all demand better nutrition from our food, a better outcome from our food. And there are so many functional ingredients that naturally can place themselves in drinks that aren't being touted, especially when it comes to native ingredients and things that we grow here in Australia. We're so tired of hearing of, say, acai berries from South America when you have Kakadu plum from the north of Australia. So having a functional element to our ingredients is something we strive to do so that our drinks are not only better for you, but our secret recipe makes things good for you. So let's actually present the products and what we've made. So front and center is our Kommunity Brew Kombucha. This is what started in the shed, and this is what built our business up so that we could see what commercial opportunities were ahead of us. We pride ourselves on a natural kombucha that's unpasteurized, that's low sugar and herbal infused. All of our drinks, you'll see the colors and the flavor come from natural plants and come from nature. And so we can get these bright, beautiful purples and reds and greens, all from natural ingredients. You're never going to see a bright nuclear blue or green Powerade style drink in our portfolio. We're really conscious that what is in our drink needs to come from nature. And over time and from our research, we've been able to expand what we do. So we now have included probiotic health shots and sparkling probiotic waters. So products that are fundamentally good for your gut and good for your well-being, not only when you drink them, but for your lifestyle that follows. And in this space, under the brand of Kommunity Brew, we've been so successful in working in the independent market that Coles came to us for our kombucha products. And we have now since ranged 6 products into Coles all across Perth. This ranging has been significant for us because while we're offered to have national distribution, we're conscious that we only bite off what we can chew and deliver a really good service from the get-go. So yeah, that's in terms of the Community Brew products. In terms of market share, it is a huge space, these functional drinks and these fermented drinks. It's 340 million in Australia. It's well and truly the case that we can say with kombucha that this category is significant. It's not going anywhere. And this market share that we have is going to grow. There is simply more consumers coming to these types of products every single day. And it's a matter of making sure that we capture them and wow them with our products. Now, you would have seen throughout the video and through our marketing that we have another brand, and this is Cold Matter. So when we found a community brew in the shed, we designed it for a small market, those kombucha products. And over time, as we realized how in demand they are, we scaled. We also realized that there are other opportunities that we want to extend ourselves into that don't necessarily benefit from the community brew story, but instead act more as a sibling brand. And so with all of our infrastructure that's designed around fermenting tea and sugar and creating these fermented products, we realized we actually have this formidable position to also make cold brew coffee and iced tea really fantastic drinks. And when we reviewed those categories, we noticed that there's far too much sugar and far too many artificial ingredients in this space. In fact, it was my 9-year-old that came to me and said, I really want to have a Lipton iced tea. And I looked at the product. I hadn't looked at Lipton for so many years, and I realized, wow, this is something I really don't feel comfortable giving my child. And I thought, this must affect other families as well. And so our team went and thought about it. We went and did a barbecue test with iced tea. We sponsored some basketball events, some football events, and understood what were these kids interested in drinking. And it was the true flavors that you recognize: peach, mango, watermelon, passion fruit, these very approachable flavors. And so we decided to formulate a new brand, and we named it Cold Matter. The purpose of Cold Matter was to make ready-to-drink tea and coffee accessible to families, where that shopper, that parent, could get behind the product because it's completely natural. And they don't mind their child having something that's not only natural, but good for them. Now, the coffee is more for the parents, but a little quick success story on this. We launched Cold Matter in February 2022. And within 3 months, it was ranged into Coles 25 stores in WA, and it's been proving to have an overwhelming success. We are trading above the category average, which is outstanding for such a new brand. And it really goes to show that over the years from the cottage sized business to today, that we've learned what we need to do in order to deliver a product to a large audience and have that audience love it. So I'll go through about the phases of the business so far, because what I've explained to you is that I first met Jared in 2012, and we're now in 2023. And there's been a lot of time that's happened. There's been a lot of milestones that's happened in that time. So in 2020, when we decided to commercialize, we broke up the plan into 3 phases. The first phase was to address our brand and our innovation. So addressing our brand meant redoing the logos I had done on my own computer back in our shed, and redoing our brand architecture so that we could position ourselves for a wider reaching audience and just get really clear about what our value proposition was. And at the same time, develop that innovation pathway that meant we could create products like what is in Cold Matter. Phase 2 was then around operational efficiency, moving our business into its forever home and really scaling up and making use of the opportunities we had, such as implementing new equipment. Now we're in phase 3. We've signed our brand distribution agreements. We now have ranging in Coles that's formidable, that's been proven over 16 months. We have the opportunity to grow our store footprint, and we have a 3-year distribution agreement that takes us across the east coast of Australia. So now we're in that brand building phase, and it's all about building the awareness of the brand, and this Birchal campaign has been so significant to that. But then moving into brand building activities such as shopper demonstrations, trade shows, and digital advertising. So I'll go into our marketing strategy. Building Community Brew and Cold Matter as brands will require some public relations and digital marketing, which we've already implemented and are doing right now. This is about attracting an audience to look at our brands and then flow through to the retail store where they find our brand on the shelf because our distribution agreements is in place and we have boxes going to shops. And then once that shopper arrives, activating that shopper in that store and making sure they have an opportunity to trial our product, to see it visually as stunning and bold, and then also create promotional activities through our retail partners and co-marketing events so that we can get people exposed to the whole brand experience at multiple touch points. When I speak about capacity and whether or not we can serve the rest of Australia, this is work that we've been doing the last 2 years. So our projected volumes for this financial year is 364,000 litres. So we're a meaningful entrant in the space. This is a significant amount of product going into the market. And equally, this Birchal raise is not for the purpose of plant and equipment as a priority. We've already built the infrastructure. We have the capacity to double our existing volume without any upgrades whatsoever. And then even still, we've already mapped out the floor plan and the business to be able to scale to 2 million litres per year with a very small investment. Now, growth is also about portfolio development. We've been very effective at creating cold matter and getting that quickly launched into major trade partners. And we want to continue to replicate our model of designing good drinks that have tangible, rapid growth opportunity. So the 3 areas we are specifically looking at, and I'll bring up Powerade, is electrolyte sport drinks. There are entrants into this hydration space and the existing brands are still massively artificial, and it's really difficult for parents to get behind Powerade. It's hard to say that an electric blue drink is good for your kids. Similarly, there is an emerging space that's a longer term opportunity in hemp infused drinks and cannabis beverages. So cannabis is rapidly going through legalization, but right now there are hemp products that can be used legally in beverages that we think have a functional element and can be delivered to the mainstream market. And thirdly, non-alcoholic picnic wines. While the non-alcoholic market is growing quickly, the wine section of that market is still underdeveloped. And so when we look at these 3 innovation products, we are looking at what blue space is there because we want to offer the best value to the market. Now, in our video, you would have heard that we are also developing our export potential, and this is a very clear pathway that's underway right now. We have existing opportunities to enter Saudi Arabia and Singapore, and this has been made reality through our partners at Austrade and the Trade Start Commission, as well as Export Connect, who is a private partner of ours. Over the last 6 months, I personally have been going through an export development program in order for us to assess which markets could have the best return to Kommunity Brew and cold matter, and which ones would have the best trading relationships as far as brand penetration and sticking power with those consumers. So these plans are underway, and a reason we are engaging with this virtual crowdfunding platform is in order to fund the activities I've just mentioned. But we don't need to set our sights overseas entirely. There is a massive national market that's waiting for us to action. We have just secured this distribution agreement that covers the entire East Coast. We will be activating our partner over there with ambassadors on the ground and through events. And we know exactly where we want to deploy the capital once it's received as a result of our campaign. And so that brings us to probably one of the most important questions investors and interested parties have asked us, is what are the funds actually for? So while we have venue and brewery expansion there, it's only 15% of funds, and that's really over a 3-year period. The vast majority of the funds are going towards marketing, brands, and communications, which is really about growing that brand awareness and shopper conversion in store. This means sales distribution will also be getting the next amount of the capital, and this is in that ambassadorship, trade expos, and trade missions. So very much so, it's about a revenue growth spend going to market, making sure we meet with the retailers, sign the appropriate agreements, deploy marketing activities to support those retailers, and get deep brand success in our new markets. Very little of the capital will go towards working capital, and beverage range development from our perspective is actually usually a very low cost endeavor, in that we're very aware of the stages we need to go to making beverages. And so there's a small amount of capital assigned there also. So the management team, you've met myself. I largely take care of the strategy, the vision, and the people that we hire. We very much so follow an approach of people first, then strategy, and then execution. So by having the right people in the right roles and making sure that our human element is taken care of and in this project with their heart is really our priority. And then we start to move to the execution and strategy elements. Jared Dickey, my co-founder, he's the one that's responsible for all of our plants and equipment. If anyone's met Jared already, he's an absolute genius when it comes to machinery. And so in that case, we're able to keep our formidable supply chain running for many years in the future. Nat and Sam both act as our operational managers on different ends of the spectrum. So Nat is a food technologist. He graduated from Curtin University. In fact, he was one of our first employees when he was an intern. He then went and worked for a major food manufacturer and came back to us. Nat is an absolute genius when it comes to managing our production as well as our new product pipeline. And then Sam has over 10 years fast-moving consumer goods experience. He's worked with brands such as Coco Bella, Lobros, Nutrient Water, Rokeby Farms. Immense experience in this healthy beverage space. But overall, it is a fairly small team. We have 6 full-timers. And we have 8 part-timers. Those part-timers are largely casuals that come in when business is really hot and we need lots of delivery drivers or production hands, and then cool down when winter rolls around. Here's the majority of the team here. I really thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation. It was probably very corporate in that we have a pretty clear strategic plan about where we're going to go, but obviously what I presented to you tonight is very top level. So I really encourage you to ask the hard-hitting questions now so that we can go into the detail a bit further. So thank you very much, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Mason. That was great. Really, really good overview there. So filled in a lot of gaps for me. Before we jump into those questions, I want to go back to the shed where you guys were first brewing. Can I ask what flavor was your first kombucha? Do you remember?
Yeah, so ginger turmeric was our first one. So yeah, just a matter of really hitting the health elements right on the head. We just thought we were making amazing ginger beer, but we were brewing in 10-litre batches. So there might be some people in this chat that recognize my face from door knocking in Fremantle and doing marketing the old way, just going knock, knock, knock. I've got kombucha. Would you be interested?
There you go, door to door. Did the first batch taste good, or was it a bit of an iterative process?
Tastes good, but a few thousand brews in the future, it's massively improved.
Okay, it didn't spit it out. That's a good step. Awesome. Well, great to hear that. I'll jump into a few of these questions that came through beforehand. But like I said before, really encourage at any time you see the Q&A button down there. Please chuck in any questions that you have, and we'll get to them as soon as possible. Got a question here from one of the ones from email asking about why should I, as a potential investor, jump on board now? So I guess this is one that I can help with. We're at the moment in the expression of interest phase for the Community Brew campaign. So obviously at the moment, we can't take any investment money from you yet. So the reason that you jump on early is basically so you have priority access when the deal goes live next Tuesdays, when you'll be able to actually invest. So registering your interest now not only gives you access to the investment as soon as it goes live, you won't miss it, but you also get access to all this like sort of really rich content that we're delivering here. So obviously the webinar, which is recorded, you get a copy of that. And all the email communications from the Community Brew team. So that's why it's important to jump on board now so you don't miss out. And so that when it goes live next week, there's a 2-day period where it's only open for the people who've expressed interest. And we have seen campaigns before regularly max out on their raise goal in that time. So yeah, registering now means you don't miss out. Just following on from that, I'll just give a very quick overview about Birchal, because I know that a few questions have come through to the Community Brew team about who are we in this process and what we're doing. So essentially, with an equity crowdfunding campaign, you're able to invest in private companies, whereas previously private companies could only have 50 shareholders on their books, basically. So it was kind of prohibited for the high net worth investors. Up until 2018, that was the way it worked. But 2018, the laws changed, and now we're allowed to do what's called equity crowdfunding, where platforms like Birchal, when we host offers, it allows companies like Community Brew to have more than 50 shareholders. In fact, they can have unlimited shareholders when they do offers like this. So the great benefit of that is, people like you who maybe don't have, hundreds of thousands of dollars lying around can still back these brands and these companies that you believe in, and, supercharge their growth. Whilst also Community Brew and other companies get access to capital from the crowd, which is a great way to do it. Gives them a direct line to people who are passionate about what they're doing. So anyway, our process at Birchal, we're setting it up so that people like you can invest. So after this process, you'll own shares in Community Brew, and that's it. You're on your way, and you're a part owner in the business. I hope that's answered any questions about that. So another question here via email, and thanks for popping a few questions in the chat there. We'll get to them in a second. Mason, you mentioned sort of your plans to expand there, and you also gave us a bit of an overview of the team. In terms of like the current team we have now, are you ready to hit the ground running, or is there a few sort of strategic hires that you're looking to make to kind of reach those goals that you outlined?
Really great question. So we're probably one of our greatest sort of cultural successes internally is being able to retain our staff over the last 2 years. So I'm sure there's lots of business owners who are watching, and a lot of people in general would know it's a tight labour market. And I can safely say we haven't lost any of our key personnel for 2 years. We've been able to maintain these massively passionate people. Many of them have worked with us for 3 or 4 years already, and they know what it's like to be in a startup and growth phase business, and they work exceptionally hard. But we're really proud about how satisfied they are as employees. They are so on the journey with us in terms of being effective managers and seeking challenge and trying to rise above the occasion. So as far as key personnel, I think we're largely covered. What we're looking for, though, are personnel in areas where we are not. So that brand ambassador, a brand ambassador is a bit of an ambiguous term. I'll clarify it. It's almost like a business development manager, but someone that can go meet with retailers on a more local level in new markets. And often those roles start on a part-time basis, and we get to make sure we educate that person on the brand messages. We get them involved. We visit them regularly. Either myself or Sam will fly over and train them and help develop the market with them. But that's really the new personnel we'll be adding to our team. Operationally, we're very strong already with who we have, but where the new jobs are more on that marketing and branding side of things. It's less in the actual bricks and mortar building and more like satellite people around Australia.
Cool, that's good to know, and great to hear about that role, I guess. So it's going to be boots on the ground in terms of expansion for Community Brew. You want people going into the stores and showcasing the product. Is that the plan?
Yeah, it's not we're not talking about a lot of people, really one to two people per state, and it's really at a scaled level. So right now we're focusing on New South Wales and Queensland. So right now we have a business development manager or brand ambassador in New South Wales already, and we're looking for one in Queensland as we speak. So these are our two largest opportunity markets. And so the return on investment in that individual is usually very quick when it's a new market with lots of opportunity. And like I said, we usually start these roles at part-time just to be conservative, make sure we build the business up. And we're really clear from the get-go. Just about all of our employees to date have been part-timers who we said, right, we're growing, your role's going to grow with us. Is this a commitment you're ready to make? They've all said yes. And if they've said no, they've said, we're probably not the business for you then, because we are a growing business. So you need to grow with us. But the talent that we have acquired from it is outstanding. And the proof is within 2 to 3 months, those people are full-time and usually going, oh my God, we're working really hard. We need an assistant. So we've grown our head count quite quickly.
Awesome. Great to hear the strategy there. It sounds like you've got a bit of a proven formula for doing that, which is always good to hear in terms of use of investor funds. You can kind of deploy it. You've done it before, just need to plug into a new market. So question here from Amy. Thanks for your question, Amy. So I'll just read it out. So Amy's saying here, it's great to have healthy, tasty drink alternatives. I've seen a lot of Australian products in this space already which are already available in major supermarkets. Can you please elaborate on what makes Community Brew better than these direct competitors? Why are you likely to be more successful, and thus why should you reinvest in your company and not a competitor?
That's outstanding. And it's what I want to be conscious of. It's not like a us versus them mentality. Like a lot of people think about competitors as like you have to beat them. But how we have to think about what the retailers are thinking about, okay? So the retailer wants to see a category grow. So if they're adding a kombucha brand in, they need to go, what do you offer that's different, that grows the category and doesn't just take sales from your competitor? So really long-term established categories such as coconut water, which has been around for 15 years, still has new entrants into coconut water. And it's about, the retailer's going to ask them, how do you grow the coconut water sales across all of the interest? What new shoppers are you going to bring to us? And this is what we need to answer to Coles, Woolworths, for all of our retail partners. And the reason we're able to enter into Coles and we're able to go into these range of views with Woolworths is because we have a very clear idea of who our consumer is versus who the consumers are currently. So the biggest brand you'll see on the market starts with an R, ends with a D, Remedy. So, these guys have been on the market for over 8 years. They definitely go for that value, zero sugar, flavor, like largely a flavored kombucha drink. But the idea is what do our products do that's different, and who do we attract into the shop that wouldn't normally shop and look for kombucha there? So our consumer is very clear on that. They want organic, natural, whole ingredients. They want to look at that label and go, this is exactly what I expect to see in a natural product. This is exactly what I'd expect to see if I made it at home. However, the guys at Community Brew, guys and girls at Community Brew, are far better at doing it than I am at home. They make it tastier. They make it more delicious. The color's better. It smells better. All of those elements are premium, but also executed at a professional level. And we really pride that on a lot of our drinks. So we make sure that we make something that is clearly distinct from the competitor, in that, not that it's better than theirs, it's actually different, because we can't be better than everybody. But what we can look at is the whole fridge. What are we doing differently? And with Community Brew Kombucha specifically, we make a very natural and organic and recognizable product that speaks to those home brewer kombucha people out there, but also those people who want the absolute most natural product they could get. We speak to them. And there are plenty of other brands that offer more of your mainstream, basically a flavored soda drink.
Cool. Thanks for that, Mason. And great to hear a bit more about the sort of targeting strategy out there for the wholesalers. Can I ask a follow-up question on that? Like, I know you've obviously had some great success getting into the majors. Like, how much of your growth strategy is, going after those big players like your Coles and your Woolies versus, maybe getting to some more independent retailers? And like in the independent space, do you have like an ideal like wholesale customer? Is there some details you can share on that for us?
Certainly. So, ideal wholesale customer really for us on the East Coast, we are already established in. So Harris Farms, we are available at every single Harris Farms store, and their growth trajectory over the next 5 years is significant. We expect to see them have twice the number of stores. There's also other family dynasties like Drake's, Flannery's, there's White's IGA. So we have identified all of those independent markets. And just by going for the independent markets, we could see significant triple-digit growth in our company. Like that's very easy to quantify. However, we also have to acknowledge that by going into the majors, there is a significant market there as well, also in the triple-digit growth. So right now we're in a 25 store ranging with Coles in WA, and we're just about to expand our Community Brew footprint as well. So we've got Cold Matter already in 25 stores. Community Brew is about to expand to the 25 stores. And then we'll be looking at, it's like stepping stones. We'll then go, okay, let's do Coles Western Australia. Right now that the sales data is good there, let's move to Coles National. We'll be ranging with Woolworths at the same time. So as far as breaking it up as percentages, majors and independents are about 50-50 in terms of the domestic market focus. We'll be looking at both equally. And then we'll also be looking at export market as a bolt-on, but that will sort of kick off in within 12 months.
Cool. So starting with the domestic market and then expanding after that. Awesome.
Yeah.
Jump into some more questions here. So Fernanda, thanks for your question. Fernanda's looking for a bit more information on the financials. So particularly on current shareholder capital, how much you're looking to raise and current valuation. Now, I'll just point out here that Kommunity Brew are going to make an offer document available when their offer goes live next Tuesday, which is going to have all of this details in there. So Mason, like in terms of like just adding a little bit more clarity, maybe in terms of like, you know, the amount of money you're looking to raise, not talking about specifics, but like, can you just go back and drill down into sort of some of the key things you're going to use with that money as soon as you get it?
Yes, certainly. So we're looking at raising a minimum of 400,000 and a maximum of about 1.3 mil. Okay. We're looking at executing that capital over a 3-year time frame. And largely that's going towards marketing. As you can see, over 48%, like let's just call it 50% of the funding is going directly towards marketing elements. And then the remaining 50% is broken up amongst new product development, minor brewery expansions, and then working capital. Obviously going into a new market, i.e. if we were to turn on Singapore tomorrow and send a 20-foot shipping container, you need the capital in order to create all that stock on hand and then send it over and then await for the commercial rewards. So there is a bit of a working capital element to any growth plan to make sure that we can actually buffer the growth and the time period that distributors or retailers might need in terms of their credit terms. As far as financial performance, I can't give you it all right now, but you will get the offer doc at the end of the week. One really important question probably to answer for yourself is what is the revenue growth? And to give you an idea, we've had over 40% revenue growth year on year for 3 years. And this year we're looking at replicating that. So the financial year end expectations for this year is 1.4 mil. Okay, so that's 1.4 million. And that's still largely only trading in Perth Metro, a little bit of Sydney and a little bit of Victoria. Because our distribution agreement was only signed at the end of last year, so around November, and is being delivered right now in January. So we don't expect that national expansion to significantly impact revenue in this first quarter while we're developing it. It's going to be sort of 10 clients here, 10 clients there, 15, you know, so on and so forth. So it's going to be a momentum play for the East Coast. However, we've still seen significant revenue growth in our humble and rather small market in Perth.
Cool. Yeah, 1.4 million. That's really impressive. Lots of kombucha obviously being sold. Gets me thinking. Like, I wonder, you know, like with the DIY kits you have, you start off with a little SCOBY. Like, do you have this massive SCOBY for the big tanks that you're brewing? How does that work?
Mate, our SCOBYs are gigantic. So yeah. Well, about 1.2 meters in diameter. Like they're big SCOBYs.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of them too. So yeah.
Got to keep feeding monsters, eh? Okay. I've always wondered that. They just get bigger and bigger. But yeah, thanks for your question, Fernanda. And please look out for the offer document next week, which will have plenty more detail to dive into there. Thanks for your question. Now, Grant Wheeler has a question here asking about what is the likelihood of selling KB to a larger food and beverage player, e.g. Coke? And maybe, Mason, do you want to give a little bit more sort of details about, you know, what the future looks like in terms of potential exits? Obviously, we can't promise anything, but have you thought about that?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And also, safe to say, no, that's not the company I'd like to sell a brand to. You can look at, they bought a kombucha company a few years ago and absolutely killed it. I'm sorry. Do the Google. It did not end well. And they didn't have, I think, as a defensible or formidable position as what we have. It's no good. No, you have to choose your partner very carefully. So we expect to entertain buyout bids at that 5-year mark. So it's really important that investors that are looking to get in today, that they recognize that this is a journey. It's a 5-year journey. What we've accomplished in 2 years has been really significant. So to think where we'll be at in 5 years is a little bit mind-blowing. But what we want to be doing right now is building a beverage empire that's profitable and returns profits to its shareholders. I am in a business I absolutely love, and I've got team members who have made long-term commitments who love what they do. We are deeply motivated people, and we're looking at building a business we're both proud of, that we can actually return something to its shareholders. So it's about building a dividend-paying beverage empire over the next 5 years and entertain the offers along the way. But we got to be conscious of not destroying the brand equity to the wrong partner. So it's about assessing what that offer means for the brand's value and whether or not it can continue to deliver. Like really, the partner should take that brand mission and deliver it to a much stronger, better, larger scale. And there needs to be a good reward to all of the shareholders that have put in their effort and their resources from inception to now. So yes, we'll take offers seriously, but increasingly seriously over time. And it's really not our end goal. Our end goal is not a sellout bid. We're not working on that now. We're working on build a beverage empire that's profitable, that brings dividends to shareholders.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. It has to be a win-win partnership when you do start exploring those exit options. Maybe just to add a little bit more color to that, Mason. Sorry to put you on the spot, but I wonder, do you know of any acquisitions in this space like that have occurred recently that you can just maybe allude to, just in terms of examples?
Yeah. So anyone that's across the beverage space would know that Asahi recently rebranded into Asahi Lifestyle Beverages, and that's Asahi, the beer company, who you're probably very familiar with. So Asahi also owns Schweppes, and they recently purchased Strange Love. Now the amount hasn't been disclosed, but it's expected to be around the $40 to $50 million mark. And they still had a fairly small market share, and they were in a very niche space of adult soft drink. Strange Love, great company. Check them out. They're such an interesting brand. But that's an example of a very recent, within 10 months acquisition.
Cool. Have to check them out. Cool name. All right. Well, moving through some more questions and yeah, keep them coming through. We still have time, everyone. So yeah, don't leave it too late. So I got a question here from Milin. Thanks for your question. It's asking, Mason, what is your personal goal in terms of market share? You're trying to achieve, like, in terms of your dreams, I guess. What's your aspirational goal? And also asking about investor dividends. So, in terms of investor dividends, like for private companies, it's quite rare for the companies to pay dividends, purely by the fact that that money is much better invested growing the business. But maybe the first part of the question there, Mason, if you want to jump into that about market share.
Yeah, certainly. So and on dividends, like I said, 5 years, because it needs to be a meaningful dividend. No one wants a couple bucks thrown their way. It needs to be a meaningful dividend, and we still have such a business to grow here. So it makes more sense to deploy that capital in business growth. However, the market share question is a really good one. It's difficult to answer only because we have a few categories to consider here. So if we're looking at the cold brew coffee, that's going to attract a much smaller market share, simply because the way that ready to drink coffee is it also includes flavored milk, which is your Masters, your Dare, and the likes. So we're looking at a small market share in that regard, just because it's a super massive category that's really stratified. If we looked at kombucha specifically, I don't see why we couldn't be attracting a double-digit market share. We should be able to be hitting that 10% if our national strategy is effective and we're able to grab those independents and those majors on the East Coast. There should only really be 3 brands in those fridges over time. We will see consolidation. It's actually already happening. And that's why we've been able to grow so fast, because consolidation is occurring and there needs to be true brand differentiation in that market fridge. It can't just be brands that fight over the same customer and they win on price. That's what's been happening in the category for a long time. And while price is still a driver, it is changing over time from a retailer's perspective, where they want different shoppers coming to that fridge. So double digits for the kombucha, double digits, high double digits for the sparkling probiotic and the probiotic shots. Single digits for coffee. It's simply a much bigger space, and we do not plan to make dairy-based products. So it's unlikely that we'll get double-digit market share for cold brew coffee. And then as far as electrolyte sport drinks, we have to launch the product and see, but I would be pretty keen to try and get 5 to 10% of that. That would be, we're going to go on that one very hard. There are no natural options in that space, so we have time. We could be a first mover on the first natural electrolyte sport drink in Australia. That is very possible because there's no other options right now.
Oh, yeah. Look out, Powerade. Tried sugar-free Powerade. No good.
I encourage the people in this chat to go try a Powerade, and you tell me whether or not you think it needs to change, because huge opportunity.
Yeah. All good. Cool. And thanks for more questions coming here. We've got one here from Graham. So Graham's asking, are there any opportunities in Europe for community brew as families struggle to kombucha in the UK, supermarkets, i.e. there's no kombucha in the UK. So yeah, what about Europe as a market?
Okay, so great question. We've actually had interest in Sweden. So we do know that there is a market in Europe. However, we are at a supply chain disadvantage to enter Europe. So for us, it would be very capital intensive to go over there. And we're about making sure our capital is deployed really effectively that actually creates tangible value. So no, I don't think Europe is on the horizon for at least 3 years. We have Asia Pacific. We have the MENA region. That's all much easier for us to access, have huge demand, need our products, have expressed interest. There is trade incentives from government agencies to support our entry into those markets. So we think it's really sensible and practical to go down, or you could even just say it's really strategic to go into that market first. And then we need to assess Europe and see how we enter that effectively. Arguably, it's easier to enter in North America than it is Europe at this point in time. I would say in 3 to 5 years, the company would need to assess what is a different continent entry going to look like, and is there the organic resources in the company to fund that? Because going to say UK and the likes is going to be very fund intensive. And while there might be a really good opportunity there, we just need to make sure we measure that and actually get it. I think about it like boxing. It's really easy to understand in sport, in boxing, where you have like welterweight, lightweight, heavyweight. You want to make sure as a brand and as a company, we enter the right weight class for what our business can sustain. And so Europe is not a near-term prospect. It's a bit too heavyweight for us.
That's it. Yeah, don't punch above your weight too early. Cool. Well, following on from that, like sort of alluding to like manufacturing, obviously that's a big consideration with a business like yours, Mason. Like, I know you've got the wonderful facility there in Lathlane. In terms of scaling, in terms of growing, what's on the cards for that in terms of production facilities? Are you going to look to always own the production end to end? Would you ever look to partnerships? Do you think if you did, could you maintain quality? What does that look like?
Outstanding question. So about 5% of our business activity is on contract packing. Specifically, we like to work on innovative projects, sort of do that sort of initial product design, develop the product, and then, that brand can take it to a contract packer, mainly because we want our volume largely going to our own products. But it does help keep us sort of, from a design angle, lubricated in making those products. So contract packing. WA certainly needs more manufacturing capability. We have immense support from the local government, state government to create manufacturing capability in WA. We enjoy it, having built, our breweries all the way through and having done the electrical and the plumbing and getting the equipment and refurbishing equipment. We actually enjoy that specialty we have. We don't have any trouble training up production staff to learn how to run these machines because we've largely had to service them and build them ourselves. So if anything, it's one of those formidable pillars underneath Kommunity Brew is that we run our own supply chain. And during COVID, we didn't have any out of stock issues whatsoever. During railway breakdowns, stopping food transport from East Coast to West Coast, we had no problem. In fact, we actually got more business because we were here. And we have had no punishment from not being on the East Coast. So, there's a few things to this. There's also this freight element. Any freight that comes into WA also has to go back over East. It's called backloading. And so the freight cost from WA to East is cheaper than from East to here because the trucks and the containers have to go back. So we fill those containers back. There's then a really strong long-term strategic plan by the state government to develop WA's capability of exporting into Asia Pacific from Fremantle, from Kwinana, from Geraldton. So we've also got long-term, our business is in a good geographic position to be exporting. So No, it's not our desire to outsource our production. We actually relish the fact we get to keep that GP for ourselves. We get to keep that IP and capability for ourselves. We become more formidable, but also if we had a product that got so massively viral that we had to go to a contract packer, we know how to handle those negotiations because we've had those negotiations. We know what it takes to run plant and equipment. We know when a tooling cost should cost X, Y, or Z. We know what the processing aids need to be. And so as far as experience, I look forward to those negotiations because it's probably tied to a massive opportunity, but it's not the way we're building our beverage empire. The way that we're building this beverage empire is by having skill, talent, and capability in our business that we control. And if we want to launch a new product next Tuesday, we have all the capability to do so.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, sounds like you guys are really hands-on and you know your craft very well. So yeah, no soft hands in the Community Brew team, lots of calluses, I guess. I think, Millen, I think that kind of answers your question about, franchising, co-manufacturing there. So thanks for that one. And just being aware of time, we've got a couple more minutes left. So I'll jump to one more question here that came through via email beforehand. But if anyone's got one last question for Mason, still have time for that. So get it in quickly. So Mason, in terms of your future growth, obviously you're raising capital now. And you'll probably know a little bit more in a few weeks about how much capital you've raised and what the future plans are. But yeah, what are your plans for raising capital in the future? Have you thought that far ahead? And, maybe could you just elaborate for people who are going to join in as investors now, what that might look like?
Yep. So our minimum raise amount, which is looking at 400,000 right now, is it will deploy our plans for the next 3 years. Okay. Anything further on that just makes us more aggressive, more funded to deliver bigger plans over a shorter time frame, but also essentially, I guess, deliver more. So we've got our plan on a scalable basis. 400K will do what we think needs to be done, no matter what. We're doing it. We'll do it even without the funding. We will do it. We'll just perhaps do it a little bit slower, a little bit more organically. But with the funding means we can really hit those strategies on the head. And then at the max subscription, we're just going to deliver it on a bigger scale and focus on more opportunity. Now, when it comes to raising capital in the future, that really is project-based, i.e. if we were to take on another continent and that's really the only one I can imagine. I can't imagine us building another facility. We just finished one last year. It would be very strange to need to build another one in 4 years. We would have to get 10x growth in 24 months. It would be huge. So no, in terms of capital raising in the future, that's really driven around new continental markets that we would be looking at, maybe North America or maybe Europe.
Awesome. We never say never, and I think based on the presentation and just the energy you bring to this, Mason, I wouldn't doubt you could do that. But yeah, cool to hear that you've thought ahead, and we have seen companies come back a few times on Birchal, so that door's always open. And usually when companies are coming back, the valuation's going up. It's always a growth story, so that's good news for people who get in now at the ground level. So no more questions to come in. Mark just wanted to give a bit of a shout out and say great presentation, Mason, and I'll echo those sentiments. Mason, just with a little bit of time left, I'll just throw back to you now for any final words for anyone on the call in terms of what comes next and next actions for the Community Brew campaign.
Great. I really want to, next actions for the Community Brew campaign is make sure we get into contact. Okay. So if you're in this video, you want to have a meeting with me, there's emails. I've probably emailed you or text messaged or called you or tried to reach out to you in some way. I really want to convey that with this Birchal campaign, even though we've had a significant EOI expression, it's really about taking a small cohort of people to a couple hundred people on this journey with us, because I want to keep it personal. The community brew part, the community part of our business is about connecting with individuals and taking them on the journey with us. And that means making sure your ideas are heard, that our strategies are understood, that this business like the back of your hand, and that we can include you on the whole ideation and development process. So far, we've had people help us with putting light bulbs in sockets and flicking switches and carrying boxes and doing delivery days and spreading good sentiment. So far, people have been so involved. And the reason we wanted to do Birchal was to get those people involved so the upside benefits them as much as it does us. We're not a control freak company. We're about including people on our journey. And I really, really want you to feel like my number and my email is available to you. So I really take pride of that stakeholder management. So please reach out with questions. We're very honest people. We're just here to serve and deliver on what we think is an outstanding opportunity. So join us, reach out, have a chat, and let's do this together.
Awesome. Awesome. And thanks everyone for your time tonight, for being so engaged with this webinar. It is recorded. If anyone, missed it or you think would be interested in this opportunity, definitely encourage you to share it and the Community Brew offer. 1 week left to go with the expression of interest. The offer goes live next Tuesday. We're really excited to get this one live, kicking off 2023 with a big bang. Thanks so much, Mason, for your time. Always love your energy. And thanks everyone for joining, and we'll speak to you again soon. Really appreciate it.
All the best. Thanks, everyone.